What's up, guys? Today I am going to talk about why I hate the term blogging. So, in the early days of digital marketing and content creation, the default was you got a blog. Your content went on a blog. You were a blogger. That was kind of the default way to be a content creator in the early days of the web. And that's a good thing. It was a quick and easy way to allow people to start creating content, to start feeling out these different platforms, and it's turned into huge businesses. Some of the biggest publications on the web, different agencies, a lot of different types of businesses started out as a blog. And my side project, Hopped LA, that started out as a blog. It started out as an Instagram account even. When someone says you're a blogger, I accept it because that's the common label to give it. But do I blog? Not really. But in the early days, it really was a convenient way to get started. So it organized content in an interesting way. So reverse chronological order on a blog, the latest post at the very top. That was convenient. It was easy. It allowed people to understand that this was a website that held fresh content, that had new ideas, that was constantly publishing and active. So that benefited bloggers a lot in the very beginning because they didn't have to think about what is the way that we present this content. How do we determine what's at the top and what's at the bottom? Where does new stuff go versus older stuff? Blogging also, in terms of its infrastructure, offered a convenient way to organize that content. So we had categories at the high level, and so when you wrote a post, you ideally gave it a category, and then there were tags as well, where you could give a bunch of different tags based upon the topics that you were mentioning. So category was more like main theme, tags more like topics that were mentioned in that content. That quickly got out of hand as people didn't really understand how to use it, and then designers started opting away from integrating that functionality into kind of the core user experience of the blog itself. And so when as a content creator, as a blogger, you selected 10 different categories, you then had all these thin categories with the same post in each one. It became, let's say, not useful as a way to get people around to find the content that they're interested in. And then lastly, the reason why I think that blogging became kind of the de facto term for content creation is just that it was a label. It was an easy label for someone to say, I create content for the internet. That's really what it is. And so now as the internet and digital has become ubiquitous across the globe, and that the majority of content these days starts digitally and goes elsewhere versus the other way around, blogging as a term, we've just outpaced it, and it's outdated and it doesn't really work. Yet I still find tons and tons of people and companies utilizing the term, approaching the concept, implementing it into their business websites every single day. And honestly, I want to advocate for some change here. So, one of the main reasons that I've come up against blogging over the last couple years is because of SEO. So in the early days of SEO, people were like, you have to blog every week, 4 posts a month. And SEO companies and agencies began packaging their services in a way that was structured around, you're gonna get 4 pieces of fresh content every single month, 4 blog posts every month, or 1 blog post a month, or 1 blog post a week. It all became around how many posts did you get on your blog. And as more and more content came onto the web over the past 10, 20 years, Google has changed the way that they treat content, and it all stems from information retrieval, which is a nerdy way of describing the technical aspects of how Google works and how libraries work. But when you have a corpus of content and you have a system at the forefront for delivering people content based upon what they're looking for. That's information retrieval. So as more and more content gets put on the web, Google's having a harder time sifting through all these blog posts, some of which are varying quality because SEO companies were selling 4 posts a month, whether they had something interesting, relevant, targeted to say or not. So I've come into situations time and time again where I'm working with a client and we're looking at the performance of their site, and they're getting 90% of the performance of the traffic and conversion focused traffic that is coming into their site is coming in through a handful of pages, and then they have hundreds or thousands of blog posts that no one sees, that are sitting there on their site just kind of dragging it down. And so if you know SEO these days at all, content pruning is a thing. It's the act of analyzing, going through a content audit, auditing all the content on a website and figuring out, is this content working? Is it not? Do we need to change it? Do we need to get rid of it? What do we do with it? And a lot of it is scrapping it and getting rid of it because it just isn't working and it wasn't strategic and it shouldn't have been created in the first place. And the other thing is that users have changed as well. There's so much content on the web. You're sifting through Facebook. There's, Facebook post after Facebook post with links pointing to publications and to blogs and to all this stuff. People are inundated with content. When people are on their mobile devices, they're clicking less on links on mobile devices. They're leaving the news feed of, Facebook or Twitter or whatever less and less because there's so much there that it has to really capture your attention in order to get traffic to it, in order for someone to click it. So, because of that, the formats have changed. So we're no longer only writing content in text form as the typical traditional blogging has. This kind of led to the rise of vlogging and podcasting. So video and audio are huge formats in 2019, and they're only going to get bigger. This is kind of like ground zero for a shift, not away from text content completely, but you really have to think about what topic you're writing, what content you're trying to create, who you're trying to create it for, and then kind of reverse engineer, like, how do these people consume content? How do they find content? How much time do they have? How visual does this content need to be? There's a reason why I'm filming this as a video right now versus writing it all out as a written blog post. So there's different formats, there's different ways that people consume content, there's different ways that Google's treating content, and so this means that we have to kind of change the way we think about content. And the word blog is now, it's outdated and it doesn't fit every scenario that needs to go out there. So blogging as a whole, like as a concept, it does have a place in this world of digital marketing and of content publication, but it's not the de facto default way that content should be published and should be thought about on the web, especially for businesses. So because of that, we need to be more strategic than ever before. Less is more. When you think I need to write 1 post a week or 4 posts a week or whatever, think about what pieces of content those are. What topics are they? Who are they targeting? What's the goal of that content? These days, less is more. I'd rather, this is all dependent on what the topic and what the content is and who you're targeting, but you may want to think about a longer piece of content, a more researched and thorough, 2,000 word guide that covers the entire breadth of a specific subject versus, 4 blog posts of 300 words apiece. So just think about what is the best way for your users to consume that content, and does Google seem to prefer that content? So do a little Googling, see who else has covered that content, see what they're doing, see what's ranking in Google. That's always super, super helpful. Latest is not always greatest. So this comes back to the way that blogs organize content by default in reverse chronological order. That is not the most efficient way to get people to the content that they're looking for. and your latest content is not always your best content. So always be thinking about what is the best order for my content to live, and how should I organize it thematically, or how can I pull out what seems to be most popular out from this kind of reverse chronological archive into a best of section at the very top of your website, something like that. And last but not least, creating content does not always mean blogging, especially in how a business refers to it. So if you're a medical practice, maybe you're an ENT doctor, or maybe you're a plastic surgeon, people don't really want to read a blog. And like in a user's mind, like a blog is kind of like opinion based, like here's my thought expertise on this, and like that may not be the best format for people. A lot of times they have questions and they're looking for answers. And so if you have more more library-based content, like change the name of it, and change the way it's formatted, and turn your, 600 how-to blog posts or Q&A blog posts into a library of of resources, of guides, of info, just change the way you label it, and that is a good start to begin with. So and last but not least, the format dictates everything. So don't always default to written post. Think about what is the best way to deliver this content. What are the other goals that you have for your business? And if one of your goals, like it is for me, is to connect with people on a more personal and human level, to kind of put my face out there a little bit more so that people can see what I look like, hear what I talk about, see what kind of coffee I'm drinking. Really good cold brew that I brewed from Zimbabwe. And really kind of personalize things a little bit more, then video could be a way to do that. And then I also love audio if the topic isn't visual itself, so I'll probably end up turning these videos into an audio podcast at some point as well, just because you don't need to be seeing my face, and I can deliver this information exactly the same way, even more effectively, if you're not distracted by this guy. So anyways, that's my rant on blogging. You should rethink the way you think about content creation. Don't default to blogging. I don't want to say blogging is dead, but it's kind of dead.